tuned into the Cuyahoga Sound podcast once again.
Are we running? All right.
Yeah, sure.
We are running.
You guys just sneak right in. No, that's
Yeah.
okay. I got to
Keeps
check
people
my
from-
makeup.
Keeps people from getting nervous, you know?
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me, man. It's really
yeah.
awesome.
This one will probably be out after Christmas, you know. But we can figure out all that, you know, coming up.
Yeah,
Yep.
I really appreciate everything you guys have been doing.
Oh, thank you.
We
man.
love it. We are happy happy to do it.
I mean,
It's
they're
so much fun.
good conversations, you know, that are being had. Ray came from his, and I saw him like right afterwards, and he was just buzzing about it. You know, he was like, "Man, they just let me talk." And I was like, "Well, you got a lot to say, man."
Yeah.
Ray's a one of a kind. I think.
Yeah,
you
that
know.
was one of the things we learned at the beginning was like we were talking too much. We gotta let the guests just go.
Well, yeah. It's yeah. There's a balance there for sure. Yeah.
So we're sitting here with Brent Kirby.
Yes.
The legendary one and only.
Oh, I don't know
Brent
about
Kirby.
legendary, but I am one and only.
Well,
It's working out, right?
we'll give it to you. You know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You,
Mark that
don't,
one
you
off.
shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to be a senior citizen to get a lifetime achievement award.
I'm getting
You know what
closer
I'm
every
saying?
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The hair
Cool.
gets
You're not
grayer.
too old,
all the
right? Are you in your 40s still?
No, I turned 50 this year.
This year.
This
All
year,
right.
I turned
Happy
50. It was a
birthday, man.
big,
You're a good
big
50.
shindig. My buddy Bobby from the Jack Fords put it together, and my wife at Forest City Brewery, and all my friends came and learned my songs and played them
Oh,
for me.
that's
It was the
killer.
most amazing thing ever. I mean,
Wow,
it
what a
just was
gift.
so, man, blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forest City Brewery is pretty great.
It is, yeah. We play there twice a month. So I play there with Ray Flanagan and his brother Russ Flanagan, and then Ed Sotelo on bass, and then myself. We have the Sunday Classic. We do that on the fourth Sunday of every month, and then on the second Thursday of every month, we have the New Soft Shoe, which is a Graham Parsons cover band that I do. We've been doing that for 12 years.
That's one of the first acts I saw you perform with.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
At the Venice in Kent.
Oh, man. How about that?
I looked for a bell at Target the other day. They didn't have one.
Ah.
Every time we've had Kent mentioned in every single podcast, and we're like, we need a bell every time Kent is
You
mentioned.
need one of those, like, ting,
Yep.
you know,
It's-
service
it'll be
bell
here.
or something. Yeah.
We do have our newest addition here, though. My wife got me the Christmas present of our on-air light.
I love it.
So it's very cool. Goes well with. She helped pick out the Cleveland banner so that it wouldn't clash too much with the on-air thing that she'd already ordered for me. So
That's great.
now we've got a nice busy background.
Cool. Your wife's great, doing great things for us
Yeah.
to help us out.
Yeah, she's killer. Made the shirts. Yeah, so
It's good to have an artist in the family.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
They never say it's good to have a musician in the family, though. No, sometimes. Maybe.
I think they say
I think that some people say that, just not, not everybody.
as long as there's one.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's always the black sheep or whatever.
Yeah, we got a whole family of them for me.
All right, Brent Kirby.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing music in
Good
this
question.
scene, man? Like,
In this scene,
are you
well,
from Cleveland?
I'm not.
like, originally.
So I grew up in Wisconsin, in a town called Oconomowoc.
What part of Wisconsin is that?
Oconomowoc. I always
a lot
like to
of
spell
O's.
it out because it's a really fun thing to spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 O's. 5 O's. And so I grew up there and started playing bars when I was 13 in different bands. And I was playing drums back then, so I was a drummer. And then went to college, University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, music merchandising, and a business minor and recording engineering degree. And did percussion all the way through, so it was a music major. So I had all that stuff, and then moved to. I interned in St. Louis and ended up living there for a couple years, and then moved to Nashville for a couple years, and then Sam Ash Music, the music store, the big box music store I was working for. They moved me around, and then they tapped me to run the store in Cleveland here, and so that was 2001 that I moved to Cleveland.
Yeah, that was right, like the grand opening there, right?
It
Somewhere
was
right
just
around
it was
there.
just after. It
Yeah.
was just after that.
I remember the grand opening. They had a raffle going on, and I won a set of PA speakers at the grand opening.
Did you
Same
really?
Asher, yeah.
Man,
Nice.
that was back when they used to do cool stuff like that.
I was excited.
Was it in the same location as it is right now?
It
In,
is.
Yeah.
It was.
Lyndhurst,
Yeah.
right?
On Lyndhurst,
on,
yeah,
on
right on
Mayfield
Mayfield,
Road.
Mayfield and Brainerd, yeah. So I did that, and I, it was interesting. I was just playing, everywhere I went to, I was playing. When I moved to Nashville, I was kind of writing and playing and doing more of that. And so it always just followed me ever since, ever since I was a kid. I remember, 5 nights a week I'd be doing something musical. So it would be rehearsal or it'd be playing gigs or whatever. And so it kind of became what I did. And when I didn't do it, it felt weird.
So musical family? Is that how you got into it?
Yeah, my dad is a composer, a band director for 35 years, but my memories of him are very clear of him getting done with dinner and going downstairs to the basement where he had a piano and he'd handwrite all the scores, you know what I mean? It was before computers and everything, and he would go down and he would compose pieces for his band, his concert band and marching band and jazz band and all these different things. And so very early on I was able to see, like, my dad would write these pieces and then they would go and play them. The band would play them and the kids would be so excited. And then they'd go to the contest and they'd win the contest playing my dad's songs. And it was very early on that I was like, well, that's what, I understood very clearly the connection of music and how it kind of brought people together. That was something that always drew me to it, was just the connection involved with music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. And that was
That's my whole life. No, I'm joking.
all right. That's nice.
I hope that's pretty concise. No,
Yeah,
joking.
that's not bad. You
All
got
right,
time,
you
don't
get
worry.
you get to Cleveland about 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And Sam Ash, how long were you there for?
I was there for about 3 years, and then I just quit a perfectly good job. I knew I didn't want to do that anymore, so I didn't know what I was going to do, but I walked out that door, and, man, crossing that threshold, I really felt like I was going into another chapter of life. It really felt that way to me. And I ended up starting working in the schools with Roots of American Music, a nonprofit that obtains grant funds to go put music in schools. And so I was writing songs and in the classroom with the kids, and then would work on assembly programs, and then in the office, and kind of trying to help the organization grow in different ways. And that was kind of a constant for me, and has been a constant. I mean, I'm still involved with Roots of American Music in any way that I can, when I can, and so that's kind of got me into a place where I was thinking more like a musician every day, like waking up and thinking like, hey, I'm going to write songs today with kids or something like that. Where, and also I found that when you quit a job and you tell people what you're doing, like, I'm doing this now, they know that's what you're doing. And so then all these opportunities that weren't necessarily open to me were presented to me because that's who I was.
Yeah.
People knew me as that. They thought I was just at a full-time gig or whatever and was not able to do this thing or whatever this thing was, so they wouldn't even reach out to me. And then all of a sudden it became, I became a little bit of a, people put it out there and work started coming, you know, and so just trying to keep busy and trying to, make a living as a musician, which is possible in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, we're trying to help so that more
Yeah,
people
no,
see.
you all are doing great. You
Cool.
need it.
Is it performing that you made most of your living on? Do you behind the scenes work?
Well, there was some school stuff, like that was daytime. So,
So you're
I think
talking about like assemblies at elementary schools?
Correct.
Because I remember that very clearly. When I
Yeah.
was in like 3rd, 4th grade of like being very inspirational.
Yeah, I mean, seeing music played, like real live music,
Yeah,
it's a magical thing when you see someone play music.
Yeah.
I think for kids.
Yeah.
It was really interesting after the, kind of post-pandemic, or like that summer where things kind of opened up, last summer, where it kind of opened up, not this one, but in 2020, where things kind of opened up, patios opened up, whatever. All of a sudden you start to see kids walking down the street and they had never seen like anyone play an instrument like in person.
Yeah.
And you could just see the parent would be dragging them down the street and the kid would just be, looking back, I feel like music is such a powerful thing in that way.
Yeah.
is.
Seeing it at a young age, like it's something I took for granted. My dad was a musician, toured around, so we would follow him. You probably had the same thing, but
Similar, yeah.
But yeah, like seeing a musician for the first time, I could imagine, like if you haven't, if you don't grow up with it, it's got to be something completely different.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do. I believe in the power of it for sure. But getting it in the schools was really, a worthy thing, and I felt very passionate about that, and about just passing that on, whatever that was. In addition to just going out and playing some music and getting pushed in a corner. Here you are going to go in a classroom with 20 kids. Now you have to write a song. It's like, how do you do this, right? Like, you have to develop skills, and you have to, you're kind of put on the spot, and you kind of have to work at it, and so I think that gave me a focus as well.
Yeah,
doing that
to help you grow as a musician as well.
100%.
With coaching, the same type of thing. Like, if you start coaching something you've done even your whole life, you'll start spotting flaws in your own game. It happens with music. It happens with sports.
Reverse engineering what you do is a really, really humbling thing to do.
It is. It really is. And so, like, what age kids do you have the most fun working with?
Good question. So right now, currently, I have an Ohio Arts Council grant that I'm teaching at Midview High School and middle school, which is in Grafton. So I do that every day, 5 days a week. I have a dedicated songwriting class that I'm working with, and then I write songs with the choirs for some of their concerts and whatnot. And so, but over there, I've written with all ages of kids. And in the past, I've written with, kindergartners, preschool on up to, elderly adults and every person you can imagine in between, veterans and all sorts of really interesting people. And I forgot the question. What was I going?
Well, it was going to be which age group do you prefer, but you work with
do I prefer? So, that's what I mean. It's kind of, it's hard to say because, working with the kids, they're very innocent and they're very thoughtful, and they're not afraid of judgment, where that happens literally at 7th grade to 8th grade is where they lose it. I'm not quite sure what happens, but the kids change. And I have an 8th grader too. But I see it, like when I teach, like the 7th graders are really, really, same kids, that were in 7th grade that were sweet, all of a sudden they're 8th grade. It's really hard to work with.
Yeah.
And then when you get to high school, kids get pretty smart, and it's almost intimidating because they know more than you about a lot of things. They really do. Like, whatever we learned back in the day, it's not necessarily in the front of our brain, and so the kids are very insightful and very smart and constantly impress me. But then you have elderly people who just have these amazing life stories, and it's really just an honor to be in the presence and listening to it, and trying to transfer that into a song that can be sung. It's a really it's a privilege to be doing that stuff. So I think it goes all across the board.
Do you take a different approach to each kind of age group, or is it more universal?
I would say the universal part that I have found is just being real and being honest. Not trying to say, hey, all right, we all know we got to write a song, right? Okay, but what do you want to write about? What's going through your life, and then you start to if you can get a conversation going, and it's just like us sitting here right here, everyone has that common denominator. Everyone, and I learned this in sales too, at a music store, like you find the guy, you find out he likes to fish. All right, then you talk about fishing, and now there's a trust that develops. And when you're writing a song, there needs to be a trust between the people that are collaborating on that. And when you establish that trust, then things can be talked about pretty freely.
Yeah.
So I think that's the trick, is finding that, establishing that trust, and then somehow needling your way into the inner part of a person so it comes out a little bit, you know. And that's usually just by asking open-ended questions and kind of just going a little further. So what do you mean by that, And if they're saying lyrics, like, well, what does that mean? Does that make sense? Like, I'm not sure what you mean. And then it's a discussion, and then that's where that's my favorite part of it, is actually just getting in a room, and we're writing a song, but it's really about talking to people, I think, in many ways.
Do you find it harder to crack through on that 7th and 8th grade age group that you were talking about?
It depends. Like, that's where you kind of need to be armed with a few things in your back pocket. You need to know the bands that they're listening to, or you need to know, cultural references, that really helps.
Yeah.
And that's just, I guess that goes back to sales. Like, you kind of just have to know your customer in many ways, I think that is something that I try to think about when I'm in those situations.
That's funny. I feel that connection. So I coached wrestling for all different age groups for years, but the 7th and 8th graders were my favorite. So when you talked about that, I think because of the difficulty of cracking through, but it feels like if you can make a way bigger impact on
100%,
those
100%.
kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, it's just, I feel like, and it probably comes down to the structure of schools, where 8th grade, they're the top of the middle school, and they're the big people on campus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they go up to high school and they get humbled, and they're not like that anymore.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're sweet again. So they got about a year. You know what I mean? But you still get good kids in there. So, you know.
I always thought it was fun because they were a bit of a challenge. So
They're a bit of a challenge. Like,
the only game plan was to go in there with a very loose, structured game plan because you were going to have to call some
you can
serious
just keep their
audibles.
attention and doing something. It's a really amazing thing. That's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What you got, Evan? You just sitting back enjoying?
Yeah. A lot. I've always enjoyed teaching kids. Anytime I've done private lessons for piano or guitar, the average age is probably like 8.
Yeah.
And only a couple times have I got teenagers. And with teenagers, you either they're gonna do it or they're not. You know?
Well, that's the truth.
Yeah. So like, when I have people that they're like, their mom's like just giving me the money, and they say, okay, he's in that room. Like, he's not really excited for it. He's just, his mom's making him do it, like music lessons. And that's how it started with me, with piano. And I took piano lessons for like 5 or 6 years, and like forced to. And then when I was 12, I think, or 13, and I started getting into guitar and like figuring out how easily transferable that knowledge is onto the fretboard. Like, that got me really excited. Like, and I'm about that age, 7th, 8th grade, where I'm figuring it all out on my own because it's so relatable. Like the keyboard to the fretboard.
You had the structure
gives
and
me-
the basis of music, the language of it. You understood it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gives you like so much extra confidence when you're like figuring this all out for yourself as like a young person. And so I'm looking for a spark like that of someone really interested in figuring it out by themselves when I'm finding a student to really, really teach well.
Yeah, it's a drag when you're trying to teach someone that doesn't want to learn.
Yeah,
like
if
when
you
they're
like-
forced.
It's a hard thing to
just
do.
feel
It's a
like
hard
a
thing.
babysitter.
It's a really hard thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes
It can
it
seem
is.
like a waste of time sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, where it doesn't, come away from it feeling like, oh, that was awesome. I just got that $25 a half hour. Like, that's the only thing you can think that's
Right.
good out of that whole thing, right?
So do you have any lessons that you've picked up from your teaching where you've learned something from your students that you've put into your songwriting? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, we talked about like just kind of deconstructing what somebody does. And so in order to teach it, in order to create a curriculum and write it down, it was like, okay, I'm going to do the work here. I'm going to understand, I'm going to make sure that I really go back and not only understand a lot of the theory or a lot of the, because I had the theoretical knowledge, music theory, but dig into that a little bit more, but then also, just the process of songwriting and researching what other people are doing. I was listening to a ton of podcasts. I was driving. Grafton is about an hour away from, well, it's not quite, but it's just about an hour away from Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of driving. Like these days, I'm driving 3 hours a day, dropping my daughter off, going there, coming back, and my daughter go back in. So it's like, and then if I have a gig, it's another half hour and a half hour out because it's the Heights, right?
Yeah.
So I was really just trying to, listen to much as I could and take in as much as I could. And then, the fun part about doing that was that I could listen to something and I could have an idea of, I wonder what would happen if I tried that with the kids or, and I could go and do it the next day
Yeah.
and see the immediate effect. And that was pretty cool,
Yeah.
to be able to see like, oh, that works. Or maybe I didn't do a good job on like explaining that, like what. So it really was a deconstructing songwriting for me anyway of what I knew about it and realizing that I didn't know as much as I did. And then realizing, oh, Tom Petty does the same thing that I've been doing, but I didn't think about like why I did that, you just start to notice some things that, everyone does this, or, certain people do certain things. And it's really, to me, it's really interesting. Songwriting to me is like finding treasure, like it's really, there's a magic in the discovery of it, and even at a point where, you can have lyrics and you can have musical ideas, but there's still a point where those things merge. That is the big gray, sparkly area, I guess, where, something happens.
Yeah.
And it really, to me, I love that part, and I love talking about that part and trying to live as close to that part as I can.
Sometimes it feels like that idea has just been floating out there, and you've just found it.
I think it's timing, where we are. I do believe that they're kind of just floating out there. I feel like we take in things all the time, and creative people are able to take those things in and then have an output that reflects that. But I feel like everyone takes in things all the time.
Yeah.
And if we take notice of those things, I mean, number one, I think our lives actually become more enriched, because we're seeing things through a different lens, or we're able to express ourselves in a different way. But those are the kind of things I guess I think of a lot when I think about teaching and, learning and trying to go back and just be better at what I do. I feel like I've definitely improved as a songwriter to the point where I feel like I can't wait to write more. I just need more time. Stuff is just like, it feel like it's bubbling, and it's bubbling over, and I'll catch it there and I'll catch it here, but it's like, I know there's a lot there, and I just kind of, I'm busy doing what I'm doing right now with the teaching and balancing everything else, but there's a point coming up next year where I'm going to take some time and really dig in. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so are we.
And besides that feeling that you were describing, how else do you know that you've created something good, or that like your song is at a point that it's satisfying to you?
That's a good question, because I feel that there's some songs that I wrote 20 years ago that I still look at. I still try, and I try to do something different, and it could be like, I know I've changed words to songs that I've written. And so I do feel like there's that part of it. And there's the other ones that just kind of fall in your lap, and you just kind of know, like, I don't know where that came from, but everything is perfect on that song, and it feels great. And it's best not to question those things too much, like, did I just rip somebody off, or what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is, But I think I can look at lyrics and know. I feel like I can look at other people's lyrics too, because I'm got very accustomed to looking at another students' lyrics to know what works and what doesn't. To the point where I feel in the classroom, like, I know a lot of times after the first visit, I know what the song's going to be, and I know what needs to be written, and it's really a matter of just leading them to it. So I know what's going to work and what isn't going to work in many ways. Not that I don't let the process happen, but at the same time, it's sometimes you're in there for 3-4 visits and you have to write a song, so you kind of got to get to the point quick.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, a skill too, right? But as far as lyrically, musically, that's a little bit harder of a thing, because musically, I think my mind feels like it hasn't been completed until it's been documented in its fullest sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you have a song, and maybe I just have an acoustic guitar and a voice on it, and maybe I might add a little piano or sometimes I might add a drum beat, but it's still not necessarily, like, it's me just documenting it, but it's not the complete version of it. It's not like the realized version. Maybe that's a better word.
You've got the outline there, but you have to write the story.
Right. But I know that part is done, and after that, it's kind of hard to switch it many times in my mind, although I have.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there's a point. Like, even at lyrics, I can look at lyrics and immediately see the excess that doesn't need to be there, and so then I just start crossing out ands and does, and it doesn't matter. I don't feel it matters one bit if grammatically something's not correct. If you have the key words in there, people are going to understand what you're talking about. If you got a verb, an adjective, and a noun, like, that's really all you need in a sentence.
Yeah.
you know? And so when it comes to like syllable count and trying to fit lines and certain things, like I've gotten very good at editing those type of things or flipping phrases around. So this rhyming word doesn't work, so let me put it in the front, put this other word in the back, and now I have a new rhyme to think about, and then all of a sudden I'm not stuck in that line anymore.
Yeah.
So learning different tricks like that, you know.
I like that.
Cool.
Oh yeah, there's a ton. Like, and it's really just listening to these podcasts and what all these writers do.
So
you
you're
know?
gonna have a podcast with some of these writing lessons coming
I
out?
don't know. It's man. So like that's the hard part is like there's so many great things to do. I feel like I feel very lucky that I put myself in a position where, you know, I could do this cool thing, or I could do this cool thing, or I could do this cool thing, and it's all kind of in my same parallel, you know, goal path, you know. So it's really hard to think. I would love to do that, but I don't think I would have the time. You know, like I think I should be writing a song. You know, that's the way I feel these days. Is that, you know, I just want to write, and so I'm trying to clear my plate of all distraction. You know, it's been an interesting thing to try to do, to say no to things that I would never even have thought saying no to before. But I know that's going to give me that certain type of anxiety or something, and I'm just trying to clear my plate of all that so I can have a clear head.
Yeah.
How much time are you trying to give yourself for that?
I mean, I want to wake up in the morning and have some coffee and, you know, go to the rehearsal space or go down in my basement music room and, you know, take a break at lunch and then go back down again and then go pick my daughter up from school and, you know, work a little bit after dinner or something, you know, and then maybe even stay up after that. Like that would be my with the obvious balance of family in there, you know, that would be my premier schedule, I guess, you know, just to be around and to be, you know, to go for hikes more and to go for walks. And, you know, there's so much to be learned by people in conversation, just sitting down at a restaurant or something, just overhearing people's conversation. When I lived in Nashville, it was pre 9/11, you know, you could go to the gate, right?
Yeah.
And watch people get on and off the airplanes. And I would just go down to the Nashville airport and I'd sit outside the gate and just watch people say their hellos and goodbyes. And there were always these hugely emotional moments, you know? Like when you're walking on a plane, you feel like, I'm going somewhere.
Right.
I'm not going to be the same when I come back. And when you walk off a plane, you feel like you've changed in some way, you know? Like it kind of feels that way to me. Probably to someone who travels all the time, they might be able to do that a little bit more seamlessly. But I think for most of us, it feels that way. So those particular moments I was always drawn to because I felt like there were stories, there were things happening. Even if they weren't true, I could imagine what they would be.
Yeah.
And so that just gave me lots of, I would just sit there and write and write and write.
It seems like an endless source. Now you just get put on some government watch list, but
well, now you just get put on some government watch list. It's true.
Right.
Yeah. I thought I was eavesdropping on them, but really now they're eavesdropping on me.
They were listening in the whole time. Today you got to go find like the Uber line or something like that.
Who are they anyway?
Right. Yeah.
Let's take a second and thank our sponsor.
Okay.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, Mr. Chuck Kaminsky from Basement Trader in Painesville, Ohio.
Yeah, he's got awesome setups, although he says that for the holidays he's spending time with his kids right now, so he's not getting any done until after New Year, but this will premiere after New Year, so we will be good to go. So, Chestnut Street out in Painesville. Chuck sells a lot of used gear. He can get some new gear in for you, too. And
You're talking musical gear.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's got some cool
I've
stuff.
never been out there.
Basement Trader, BASSMENTRADER, I believe.
That's right.
That seems about right.
We are also in partnership with Listen CLE. Go to listencle.com to find 9 mood-based playlists showcasing music by Northeast Ohio artists only.
I have been on the Groove channel for the last,
I'm on Groove right now, too.
Are you? It's been about a week since they've been on, something like that.
I've been driving around all day because I'm delivering stuff for a living now.
Yeah.
And I have the playlists in queue.
Yeah.
It's like 6-7 hours, and I've heard so many great new artists.
I think that thing's actually
that I've
9.
never heard of.
I think it's 9 hours. The Groove channel.
The Groove is 9.
Yeah.
I know they're constantly adding things.
Yeah.
And they're doing such a great job and such a great thing. And it's just, you know, I feel like and we were talking about it a little before Evan got here, but just like if the pandemic hadn't happened, I think there's a lot of these things that wouldn't have come to fruition, or maybe not right immediately all at the same time.
Yeah.
I think there's a synchronicity of things that are happening in Cleveland right now with Cleveland Rocks, and I know Amanda and Michael from Listen CLE have done a great job with busking. They've worked on the busking with the city. They created these playlists that restaurants can then go buy a license fee, and they can just play these playlists. So for the listeners that don't know, when you play music in a public establishment, you're required to have a license fee through ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Me being with ASCAP, like if my song's played in an ASCAP establishment, then I get a royalty. So there's money that's collected in order to play music. They help make that cost super low, and then you're playing all Cleveland artists.
Yeah.
So I will do a commercial for them anytime.
Absolutely.
I
feel
they're
like
amazing. And you guys just saying like they're queued up playlists. Like if everyone were to do that, all these bands would be getting a ton of plays, and those plays equate into attention, other playlists. They turn into, when you're doing a booking, it's like, okay, well, this person has, 100,000 plays on something.
Yeah.
Like, those streams are going to get a higher dollar amount. Like that's what it transfers into.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is a wonderful thing. Listen, CLE.
I think what you were saying with the pandemic kind of accelerating things, for you, it sounds like it was your walking out the door at Sam Ash there that it accelerated it for you, which is a move that takes a lot of courage, And
yeah, I
so,
guess.
like, you kind of got to build.
I think about
yourself
it. Back then, it was okay, but
yeah. You get. I think when you're younger, you're a little ballsier.
Well, I don't think I had nearly the amount of responsibility that I have now.
Whereas a lot of people kind of got forced into that situation where they were walking out into the unknown.
They surely did.
So
I was included in that in many ways.
Yeah.
I lost all my work overnight. Gigs that I had held for every month for, 7-8 years, just gone.
Yeah.
10 by 3 was there for 11 years. And
I want to talk more about that.
Yeah. I remember the last one. I knew it. I knew it was the last one. I could just tell. I was like, this isn't going to be around for a while. Like, this, I'm going to really take this one in because it's. I can tell that it's not going next week.
Yeah.
It was just you could read it on the wall. It was the Wednesday before the Thursday to shut everything down.
Yeah, it was a very, very strange time. And
it was crazy.
My wife and I had just come out of Italy in early 2020 when they got hit first with the pandemic. So we came over here a little prepared.
Yeah.
And I was told the band I was in, told my friends, I was like, hey, like things are going to be changing here really soon. And it was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So I kind of saw it coming a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
I don't know that I was
probably an interesting perspective to have, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I was any better prepared than anybody else.
You saw the innocence before it was lost. Right?
Yeah, but it was a very strange time to play, and so coming back from that, how long were you out before you came back into playing?
Well, summer offered an opportunity with outside gigs to play some patios and some beer gardens and things like that, and that felt really great to get out there and play. I remember the New South Shoe playing, and it was the first time I played with a band in a long time, and we played in Forest City, and that first note was magical. Like, it was the whole reason I play in a band with other people, because you start off, you can play all you want by yourself, strumming along and singing, and you can sound as great as you think you sound, but you get a band that then is playing the same thing that you're playing and reinforce. Like, it's an amazing feeling. That was really great to play with those guys again. Yeah. So the summer kind of offered a lot of opportunity for that. And then it was like, okay, the vaccine's coming, and, so some of those things kind of carried through, although it still was kind of slow.
Yeah.
Everything was a discussion, with my wife of like, hey, I get an offer to do this. I'm getting an offer to do this. I'm getting an offer to do this. What's the situation? How many people are going to be there? So it was just a different conversation versus, hey, can I do these 3 gigs in a day? Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
To like, hey, what do you think about this one gig where there's going to be 15 people, but they're in a 1-room apartment?
Yeah.
Like, like that's the conversation.
Yeah.
That was how it changed.
Yeah, that's the way I felt too. Because there was a lot of time I was playing covers at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with me kind of branching off and doing this and looking more towards original music. Where if it was my art that I was sharing, I'd feel more confident being out there, going into the one room thing and sharing my art. But I felt like I call it paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I don't want somebody to risk getting sick to watch me do paint by numbers.
Right.
You know? So
I understand that, yeah.
kind
I think streaming was definitely a new thing that kind of opened up, and will continue to be a thing, of course. But, that was a really interesting thing to do, too. Just be like, okay, here I am, I'm playing. I get done with the song. There's no clapping. But that's okay. I can see him out there. They're smiling. Oh, no, he just went black. I'm not sure. He went to the bathroom or something, And so there was still feedback, though, that were happening.
Yeah.
And there was a nice conversation that you could have. And that was a really nice, intimate thing to have. And then the craziest part was that at the end of it, you could just hit a button. And you just walk upstairs and you could kick your feet up and have a beer. There was no taking equipment down. There was no getting paid, trying to find the owner. It was just, that part was super easy. I'm like, I could get used to this part.
Yeah, no loadout.
No loadout. I walk down there, I could do it again like tomorrow and it's still there.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Coming into it, we had Ray Flanagan, who was a previous guest of yours, I know, and a great friend of mine. And I played in the Sunday Classic with him. That's the Sunday thing that we do at Forest City. We immediately got asked by WCPN to be guinea pigs to do they wanted to figure out how they could do a show remotely with 9 different people doing 9 different jobs and figure out how to do that. So it was 3 weeks of conference calls every day, testing mics, testing, preamps, getting a dedicated line from my router to my basement, wiring that up to make sure that is. And then, then there's the X factor of bandwidth, which at 2:00 on every day, it was Mike DeWine, and everyone would watch it, the bandwidth. We couldn't do anything at 2:00. Like the bandwidth would totally be shot 'cause everyone was at home tuning in to see what was going on. It was a really crazy thing. So we ended up, I wrote 2 songs and Ray wrote 2 songs, and then we recorded one, and I recorded one at my place and sent to him. He recorded on back and forth. He did the same thing, and so then we released 2 songs. And that what was interesting was the timing on that, I think, because the whole thing happened, and this was April. This was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was like the beginning of March. WCPN reached out about that, and all of a sudden it just gave me something to focus on and wake up to every day. And I was interacting with people, and we were, talking about all just sorts of things, whatever. You know? And so that was a really good, I think, healthy thing to happen that I didn't anticipate at all. And that was a good thing because that kind of parlayed me into the summer, so to speak. The spring started happening, and then gigs started kind of creeping up, but it still wasn't the same at all. I used to do 20, 25 gigs a week in the summer, and it was nothing like that. I was like 1, maybe
20
2
a week.
I'm sorry, a week, a month.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah,
I'm like going through my head how that's physically possible.
Yeah. I think the most I had was like 12 or 13 in a week, which was a lot.
That's
too
still
much.
crazy.
It's a lot.
It's too crazy. Yeah, I don't ever want to work that hard again. That was the other thing I realized in the whole slowing down thing is that
6 was my max.
I don't want to work that hard. I want to be at home more.
Yeah.
Around the family. And to me, I mean, you mentioned it too. Like it's just it's a thing that I just want to be around. I want to see it with my own
this
2
time,
eyes.
right?
With this time,
this
right?
time.
That's it. That's exactly like. Yeah.
Love that song.
Thank
that
you.
song. My wife and I were listening to it this morning.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Man, that means a lot to me. Thank you.
A cup of coffee and that song, I was like, all right, I can make it through today.
See, hey, that's all we need is a mantra.
Yeah. Well, I'm voting.
I think
for
that's
that.
what songs are, mantras. Yeah. Cheers to that. Thank you.
We're learning a lot about Brent Kirby, the musician, here on Cuyahoga Sound Podcast today. Let's learn a little about Brent Kirby, the man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm nervous.
It's just when he gets out the whips and the handcuffs or something.
That's the next podcast.
That's
That's
the
my
next
other
one.
podcast.
That's
Cuyahoga Sound After Dark.
That's what these black blankets are really for.
Yeah,
No, I'm joking.
That's right. Cool. So you're married. You have an eighth grader.
I have an eighth grader.
Eighth
Yeah,
grader.
my daughter Mira, she's 13.
Cool. One
My
child.
wife Jenna, and then I have a son with Jenna. His name's Ever, Ever,
Ever. All right.
Ever, and he's 5. Yeah. So
Cool.
they were both like very affected by the pandemic. You know?
Yeah.
And my son had a hard time like being around other adults, like just kind of interacting with them for a while, and he's kind of warmed up to it now, but for a while it was hard for him to, like, he would just not acknowledge them. He just didn't want to, he would hide, you know, like he just didn't have that type of social interaction for so long that I think when he went out in public again, it was a little.
Is he in kindergarten?
He's in preschool, so he goes to the Cleveland Music Settlement. Yeah.
Goes where?
The Cleveland Music Settlement, the preschool there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
in University Circle. We live in Cleveland Heights.
That's
So-
cool. I didn't know there was a preschool there. That's really
Yeah, it is. My daughter went there too, and the people there I know, the teachers I know, and yeah, it's a great school for them actually.
cool.
So yeah, next year kindergarten, and then I'll get some time back with my wife too. We can go for a daytime walk, you know.
Yeah.
You an avid hiker? I heard you mention.
I love to
that before.
hike. I do. I wish I could do more. My friend John Guggenheim, or Googie is his name. He's a guy that's been around. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, and he's really a huge backpacker, and he got me into it. Got me kind of going on it, I should say. I was always interested in it, but he was the one that kind of pushed me out. And so Yosemite and Grand Canyon and Grand Tetons and Yellowstone and some New York and so just some different hikes and it's been like, I just love it, you know. The thing I love about backpacking is you go out there and you work so hard to get to this beautiful view or whatever it is, and you know that you can only see it if you walk up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. It feels like such a great thing, you know.
Yeah, and it's just such a nice reward, and just tranquility is part of the reward.
It
at the
is,
end
and
of-
it's work too
oh,
to get
yeah.
there, you know. Like
Yeah.
so many times during those vacations, I'm like, this isn't a vacation.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I should be sitting at a chaise lounge in Las Vegas or something, you know. But instead, I'm trying to climb this mountain.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
It's worth it though.
It is
It's-
totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it. I feel like too, like if you look at any creative person, that you're probably going to find that most of them walk.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how they work out a lot of their things. That's where they get ideas from. You know, I think I work out life's problems best when I'm just hiking in the woods. You know, I can really focus and, you know, talk to myself because there's nobody around. You know, I'm the kind of person that I'm auditory about my thoughts when I'm by myself. I'm around everybody, but when I'm around myself, most definitely. I don't think it's a crazy thing. I think it's a thing where I'm hearing myself say words, and then by getting them out of my head, I now have realized what those are, and I can then say, oh, that's wrong. Or I could say that's right, or I could say that's not exactly what I meant. How can I say that better? You know.
Yeah.
So getting out in the woods offers me that opportunity where I'm not look like a crazy person. Although, you know, Bluetooth and AirPods make it okay, you know.
Yeah.
Like you can talk in your car now. People are like, "What's that person doing?" You know.
Yeah.
Used to be like, "That person's fucking crazy," but yeah.
Gives you crazy camouflage.
Right, exactly. It does.
Yeah.
It does.
You got any favorite spots around here? You said you're Cleveland Heights, so
Well, I love Lake County. You know, I used to live in Willowick. I lived there for a bunch of years, and so Lake County parks I really got to know well. But Chapin Forest is one of my favorites.
oh yeah,
Yeah, just to look out there and just I don't know, it's a good length, you know, for a good like hour and a half hike. You know, you can cruise around, and I like that. And Cuyahoga Valley has so many.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're
they
right
still
there.
haven't even discovered all of them. You know, every once in a while, I look and be like, I never knew that one. You know, Rocky River's pretty amazing. I hadn't been to there before this summer, and I was actually staying in a hotel in North Olmsted, funny enough, because I had sequestered myself there because I was writing this curriculum for the Ohio Arts Council, the songwriting curriculum, and I just couldn't do it at home. There was too much distraction, so I stayed there for 5 days and just dipped down the hill, and I was at that park, and man, the Rocky River Reservation's amazing.
It's
you know?
beautiful.
we're so lucky. Like, it's really not that hard to get to places like
No.
that. You know?
If you're on the east side and you don't know it, head out there on a day off. Go to the Rocky River Reservation. That's one of my
I mean,
family's
it's kind of
favorites.
mind blowing, honestly. It really is. And that walk up feels great. The one that people do for exercise. There's just steps, and they keep going and going and going. It's like a stairmaster from hell or something, you know. But you see people, and they're going up, and they're coming down, and they're going up, and they're coming down, and that's all they're doing. They're not even hiking the rest. Maybe they are, you know. But I love getting that heart rate going, you know.
I use those to teach my daughter how to count. It was awesome.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So how many steps are there?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
We gotta
remember
ask her.
exactly how many. No.
Not over 100, right? Yeah.
No, well, she's 4, so she can only get to 40 or 50 right now. But
That's pretty great, man.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. It really is. Wow. She's going to remember that, I'm sure.
oh yeah. I'm trying to do everything I teach to her like a memorable moment in her life rather than just instruction.
Yeah.
It's good to have, some thought going into those processes.
Yeah.
Because as parents, I feel like sometimes we just don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're kind of making it up as we go along, and we run into situations that are brand new all the time. You're like, huh? But to just take the moment and be like, what's the best thing to do here? And if you have a good partner, then it's much easier to talk those things out and make the right decisions on that. Because I think everyone at heart wants to be a good parent.
Yeah.
We go out hiking a lot too. North Chagrin Reservation is the closest one to us. We're on the Euclid-Wycliffe border, actually.
Yeah.
And Squires Castle. They have some good hiking. It's not just the castle. They have some good hiking.
They
behind
really do.
that.
I love
some
it.
really
out there
good
too.
elevation, quick one. That you can
Yeah,
get
we
a
used to
good
just go
workout.
back there in high school with our sleds and just find cliffs and stuff to go down. Back when we would bounce, and not break.
Dangerous, but cool.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
You have any other hobbies aside from music and hiking interests?
I mean, I like Star Wars, I've been collecting action figures since I was a kid. So I have a good collection of action figures. I'm almost got all the Mandalorians, the 6-inch black series, I don't see.
Yeah.
It's a little geeky. But what's funny is that my son's 5, so it's dinosaurs and it's Godzilla and it's King Kong and it's all the figures and so it's
fun to
it's
go
kind of
shopping.
it's fun to go shopping with him because he'll just find things and then when I'm shopping with myself, I got a half an eye looking for him on everything, and finding him treasures. He's got an amazing toy collection. I joke with my wife that by the time that he's 18, we're going to be able to sell that collection and put him through college,
Yeah. It's fun. So I don't have any kids, but we were just out shopping for my niece and nephew.
Yeah.
One of my nephews and my niece. And it also killed me going through and all the toys I used to play with are back. Same boxes and everything. And all these He-Man guys out there. I'm like, what the hell year is this?
So true. So true.
Yeah, but the Star Wars stuff was out then, and that's.
So I like to do that, and I like to. I love being out in the yard. I love working in my yard. Just mowing and weeding, and I think weeding's probably one of my favorite things to do. Wow. Sounds so funny, but I love to just get my hands dirty. Touch the earth and get my hands dirty. I think I really like that tactile process. And putting some music on, it's just I can go for hours.
Nice.
I love doing that.
So your style is pretty much folk rock. That's what I have heard the most of you play is kind of folk, but I haven't heard all your materials. So what else? What's other genres that you like to explore or sounds you like to make?
That's a really good question because I feel like it always has been changing, but I feel like it's really changed in the last couple of years. But I definitely, if I talk about influences, Tom Petty, Graham Parsons, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Wilco, Son Volt, Uncle Tupelo, Whiskey Town, Jayhawks, so there's definitely that Americana or No Depression stuff that I was involved with early on, was around a lot of those people and were able to kind of just soak a lot of that in. And when I was in Nashville, a lot of those writers were around, and so I felt like I really feel like I'm influenced by the people that I'm surrounded with, and the people that I've played music with. Those are out of all the people that I'm influenced by, I really feel like it's the ones that I've had personal experience with, that I've actually played music with, that have affected me the most.
Nice.
So, I think it comes from that, but I also have like a huge interest in just rock and kind of, I don't know, like I always loved the Replacements and, Soul Asylum and just Lemonheads, but I've always been always have been a fan of the song, like lyrics, feeling, vibe. What are you saying? How are you saying it? Like these simple lines can kill me sometimes just because they're so perfect.
Yeah.
So I've always been very appreciative of those type of writers, and so if it's a good song, then I'm probably been interested in it, and I feel what I've learned is that it can take. When I write a song, I don't think of it in a style or a genre necessarily. I think of it as a song. And a good song, I know when I feel like I have a good song, if I know it could be played, by a reggae band, or it could be played by a metal band, or it could be played by whatever, a folk artist or whatever. Like I feel like at the core of it, it is a folk song. Most songs are folk songs, Like a lot of the pop stuff, if you were to dial it down, it's probably 4 chords and you could strum away, you know what I mean? So I often think of it like that. I think with the people that I've surrounded myself with, definitely have been rootsier, and I definitely think that kind of sound is what I've leaned towards. Although I find, I've written on guitar a lot and piano not so much, but still some. But that's where I think things have changed for me in the last couple of years, because I've been playing a lot more piano. And so the songwriting has completely changed. Because you played piano, that when you look at a piano keyboard, it's all there.
Yeah.
Everything that's been written is there, and I can see chords, and I can move, and I can create things, and I can hear how they sound. Or on guitar, that's a lot more of just the more gymnastics involved, I think, with that. And more thought, for me anyway. I don't see a fretboard like I see a keyboard. And so when I sit down to a keyboard, all of a sudden, I can do things that I can't do on guitar.
Yeah.
Which isn't a good thing or a bad thing, because if I get stuck on the keyboard on a part, I pick up the guitar, and then I kind of take over and think of it in guitar sense. And it goes vice versa, too. So if I'm writing on guitar and I get stuck, I'll just immediately go to keyboard, and all of a sudden things will be like, oh, that's what I was trying to find, and I couldn't find it. But on the keyboard I could.
Yeah, you just one note off,
Yeah.
and on the
It's
guitar
just,
it was.
like I said, it's just a visual thing. Like I can see where it's gonna go, but I can't necessarily see it on guitar. I'm not the solo lead guitar player. I'm definitely a songwriter. I definitely think about it that way. But I'm a drummer, so I feel like I'm a very rhythmic approach. I have a rhythmic approach to guitar. And I guess rhythm guitar is that would be called, but I really think of it more of like a drum set.
Just like our buddy Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
Okay, I can totally understand that, right?
Yeah.
There's a drummer who went as a front man and played like he thinks like a drummer. I think like a drummer because that's what I was up till college when I became, I was in the dorm room and I couldn't have my drum set, so that's when I picked up a guitar and started trying to, play songs to impress ladies or something, That's the whole reason we start, right?
Yeah. I picked up the guitar because I was too poor to afford a monitor while I was drumming, so I just learned what they were playing so I could watch their hands, because it was cheaper than I had an acoustic guitar sitting around. So I was like, all right, if I learn it, I could figure it out. Yeah.
Wow.
So being poor made me learn guitar.
That's good. That's great. That's awesome.
What would you say is the most important part of the song?
That's really interesting, because I feel like all parts are important. When I write songs,
False.
I think in this way, like I want to get a verse. Like I have a ton of voice memos, and it's just like I have a melody or I have a vocal line, and I don't know if that's the chorus or the verse, but it's kind of becomes somewhat apparent somewhat quickly. So then once I have that, then I can write a chorus or a verse. And we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Tell me when to shut up. I'll be good with
we're good.
it. Yeah.
We're good.
You need.
No, I left my phone in the car, so I have no idea what time it is. Or
You've
where
got a
we
clock over there, but we are good to go.
Oh,
we are totally
okay,
fine.
We're fine. We are not even close to panicking.
Good. I don't want to be that
Sorry
guy.
about that.
Sometimes you
Shut
get
up.
sometimes you get so much in the conversation, you're just like, how much time has passed? I don't know. Do you know? Do you know?
Yeah,
We're in the ether figuring it out.
it's true.
So most important part of the song is
Most important of the song is. It could be the verse. It could be the chorus. It could be the intro. It could be, the hook line.
yeah.
It could be the bridge. It could be the end of the song. How you end a song, I think, is so important.
So it's
And I think if you can get all those elements together, then you really have something.
Yeah.
That's the key, is to try to make all of those parts work together as a song. Like, that's the trick. But I think writing verse, chorus. If I have a verse and I have a chorus, then I might write another verse, and I know I got a chorus. I might write another verse. I'm going to complete probably most of that before I even go for a bridge. Because I don't think sometimes bridges are even needed.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the folk tradition. Like, a lot of Bob Dylan songs, they didn't have bridges. They just had, an A section, a B section, and that was it. Rolling Stone, for instance, there's no bridge. It's kind of just and I guess it's kind of an AAA.
Yeah.
But it does kind of have a little bit of chorus. Yeah, it does. How does it feel? Like, that's the
Yeah.
chorus, right? But no bridge. And so I don't necessarily think it's needed all the time. I think it depends on the song. If you're writing like a story song or a song with a lot of lyrics that's lyrically driven, then you don't necessarily need a bridge. If you're writing a really more melodic song with less lyrics, then a lot of times a bridge can be really helpful.
So do you come in with lyrics first and then like lyrics and a melody, or do you come off
It's
of
all of it.
instruments? All right.
It's all of it. It may be just a piano line. It could be a guitar riff. It could be a lyric of some kind, or a melody even. iPhones are great because you have voice memos and you have notes.
Yeah.
And so I just have a running note of just anything that I hear in conversation with people. Like, I'll interrupt people all the time. I'll be like, hold on, you just said this. Like, I'm documenting what they're saying, because just the way that they said it, the rhythm that they said it in, or the way that they said it with the inflection that they said it, is really, to me, I think I hear music in that, in those type of things. And my radar is constantly up for those things, And so a lot of it is gathering those things. And then when I sit down to write a song, I can look at my voice memos and say, okay, well, here's a piano idea. Or I can look at my notes and I can say, okay, here's a lyrical idea. And that usually triggers something that gets me going down a path. The tough part is when you have kids, is that you'll be writing and then you have to abandon it, because you got to go, do the bath or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a really hard thing. That's a really hard thing, I think, for songwriters with kids, is to balance those things, because you don't want to say, no, not right now, But every songwriter that I read about says when you find that muse, you have to see it all the way through, no matter how long it takes. Like, see it till it stops. And I truly believe that is the best way. Can't always do so in perfect practice. Trying to think who it was. I think it was Weezer, the guy from Weezer. What's his name? Rivers Cuomo, right?
Right.
I think he locks himself in his room. Like, he locks the door and doesn't allow himself to be disturbed till he comes out. And he has a whole way of writing songs where he catalogs everything in a spreadsheet, and he has keys, and then he has riffs. So he'll have riffs, and then he'll have lyrics. And so he could be like, okay, well, I like this riff in the key of A, and what about this riff in the key of A? And then he can match these things up with the lyrics, and it's a whole mathematical process, which is the other part of the songwriting that I've come to realize that I do a lot of, which is I write doing research-driven writing, meaning that I go on the internet and I do a lot of research about what I'm writing about. Because what I'm finding words and definitions, or if it's Wikipedia or something, I'm reading through it and I'm finding words that are just, that they're not bolded, but to me they're bolded. Like, they just boom, okay, boom, there it is. Like, I don't even have to think about it. It's very instinctual. Like, I just put all those things, and then I have a big word list. Once I have a big word list, then it's easy. Then you're just kind of just moving
just
things
matching.
around and putting things around, and you put things together. You're like, wow, I never would have put those two words together, but holy shit, that's really meaningful, you know? Those kind of happy accidents happen.
Yeah.
David Bowie did that a lot, where he did cut-ups, where he would take lyrics and then cut them up with scissors and do like, you ever see the things, the fridge magnets?
Yeah.
Very similar to that. You just move things around. He actually has a program, and I forget the name of it. It's the I can't remember, Verbicizer. It's actually a .com. You can go to it, and it's a like a Mac SE technology that he created with Apple, where you put in random words, or you put in whatever you want, lyrics and everything, and you hit this randomize button, and then it spits out all this stuff with all the words completely randomized, and then you find new meanings in words that you know, really boring sentences all of a sudden get put together, and you find like these are really happy accidents.
Yeah.
So I love doing that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's stuff that is coming out with a lot of. So I'm in marketing and I do content writing, and there's a lot of programs that are starting to do that type of thing now.
Randomize.
Yeah, you put in the topic that you're writing about, and it does it randomizes a lot of things, and AI gets really involved in it now. It's getting kind of crazy.
I mean, it's getting kind of crazy. Like, I'm still writing the song, but at the same time, it's giving me the really quick knowledge I need to be able to write about something intelligently, and kind of get under the surface. Like, you can talk about, you know, a beer, but as soon as you talk about, like, get underneath, like, where does beer come from? How's it made? Who drinks it? What kind of beer? Like, then you're saying things, and you're choosing words that people are going to, like, totally gravitate towards, because they're going to have a personal connection with that, as opposed to, you know, there's so many different ways to say I love you. Well, you know, that's the magic, is saying I love you, but not saying it. You know, figuring out the words that is still that person's going to know how much you mean to them without saying the words, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much under the surface stuff, and if you can get there, that's where things become really interesting. And that's what I mean by finding treasure. It's a little bit of digging, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Sorry to spout off a bunch of
No.
That's
dribble.
great. I love all these fresh perspectives we get on any subject imaginable on this podcast.
Yeah.
Brent Kirby, the last thing I really want to talk to you about is the 10x3.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about how important I feel that has been over the last decade or so for connecting a lot of people together.
I definitely think it's been that, you know. I'm glad to hear you say
Can you tell
that.
us about how that got started, and if,
Sure.
what venues it's been in and the format of it?
So when I lived in Nashville, there was a guy named Daniel Tashian, and he just won a Grammy. He produced Casey Musgrave's record, last two records actually. So he won Record of the Year. He's a producer, and he was just he was a guy in Nashville who was writing songs, and he had this thing called 12 on 12th, which was 12 bands doing 2 songs each at 12th and Porter, which is the premier, one of the premier music clubs in Nashville. And so every Monday you'd roll in there, and it'd be like, you know, it'd be like Ryan Adams, or it'd be Lucinda Williams, or whoever was in town. You know, you'd have these amazing bands that would come up. So people would always go. And it became really a kind of a community thing where you'd meet a lot of people, you know. And so when I moved to Cleveland, I never forgot about that kind of concept, you know. And so then when Chris from Brothers asked me, you know, I wanted my own night there, and he said, well, you know, what do you want to do? I said, well, you know, I don't want to open mic, but I want something that's like it. I want to showcase. I wanted to make it special. I want to make it different. I think I don't like about open mics is I don't like how, you know, there's a list, and determining how early you get there is where you are on the list. And then if one person is better than another, then maybe they get another song, you know, or one person go up there and do their original songs and, you know, leave their heart on the floor, and they may really suck, but they did that. And then someone will come up and play Brown Eyed Girl, and just, you know, the crowd will be all up in arms. And I didn't like that. I didn't feel that was fair. You know what I mean? I wanted a fair playing field for original music, and I wanted to be about original music. So I came up with the concept of 10x3, 10 artists doing 3 songs each, 2 required to be original, and then the third could be an original or cover. So that was the premise. And then through the years, we would do different things where we do certain artist theme nights. So then that third song would be, we do a Tom Petty night, and so you'd have 10 writers doing a Tom Petty song intermixed with their 2 original songs. So to me, I love that concept too, because like you have your songs, and then you have a master's song or something. You know what I mean? And I really like the just the feeling that gave, like the importance that it gave the original songs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these are equally as worthy as this. This is the whole reason we're here, And then it ended up doing themes where, I would do 4-word prompts, and everyone would come in with original song based upon these 4 words, which were magical nights. And those artists still play those songs, like I know that those songs would not have been there had those prompts not been there, for me too, included.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those were kind of really, really great, awesome things. And then this beautiful thing happened where I didn't really anticipate it, but it was something that it was just amazing, where people just started to kind of commingle. And then it became, Ray came in when he was 18. Ray Flanagan came in, he was 18 years old. And then it was like, within a few years, he was dragged up on stage all the time. He'd just keep his amp up there because everyone would want Ray to play with him. And so you had this collaboration. You had these people kind of sharing ideas and sharing things. And like, here's this person has this song, but then, I'm playing drums and Ray's playing guitar and this other bass player, they're playing in the bass amp. And there's the grand piano there. And the next thing you know, it was this person's songs who had never been realized in a full band scenario. All of a sudden, here it was, It was a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And we did that for almost 11 years before the shutdown happened. It would have been 11 years in June of 2020. And so that was at Brothers Lounge, and Brothers closed. It's still not open yet. I'm not sure what the status of it is.
Yeah.
And, what it was for me was I feel that everyone, I don't care what you do. I really don't. Like, no matter what you do, I feel like everyone has to have some community in their pie of what they do, where their energy goes, And it can't be just sending money to something. Like, you have to get out there and do something for, pick up your neighbor's trash, or, you know what I mean? Just something. Everyone needs to give a little bit to the community. And I felt like the 10x3 was a big part of me doing that. Was really like, I'm trying to create a good listening audience. The last bunch of years, it was a shush policy, so you had to be quiet while the performers were performing. Mm-hmm. Like, you had to sit and listen. Like, that was the focus. Like, that's how it should be.
Yeah. When
people are up there playing their own songs, you should shut the fuck up and listen, And I would go and kick people out. I'd shush them, and most of them were very understanding, some that weren't, whatever, they just, this isn't the place for you. There's a bar over there. Go ahead, Like, this is what this room's about. And so I think, at the very least, I hope that it trained some listeners to go out and be that respectful to original music, or when music's playing, that they're listening, that they're appreciating, that they're saying, hey, awesome job. There was that sense of community, that it was like you saw people just grow in that whole environment, And that was a really beautiful thing to see a person come in and they didn't have it, whatever it was. Like, I always appreciated it. I called it a true voice, where you could see anybody come in, and maybe it was their song, or maybe it was the way that they sang, or maybe it was the way they played guitar, it was whatever energy they had. Like, you could tell if it was true and authentic or not, And some of what would be considered some of the shittiest performers, the terrible singers, were some of my favorite, because they were so true to themselves that you couldn't deny what they were saying, You believed them.
Yeah.
And I saw thousands of performances there, thousands of people play. And I really feel like I learned so much just by sitting there and watching people, things to say, things not to say, like, loopers suck most of the time, like, unless you really know what you're doing, like, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's just the tricks of the trade. And I just tried to, it didn't matter who you were or how long you've been playing, you were going to get treated the same by me, and have the same respect. I was still going to plug in your guitar for you like a roadie, like, that was just something that I was going to do, You know, I'm going to move things around. I'm going to accommodate whatever as much as I can to try to make everyone comfortable. And I agree. Like, I feel like there were so many great things that came out of the 10x3 that I'm really proud of that. And I feel like people like Megan Stepka and Ryan Manthe had a thing called Dingy Basement, and it was really a continuation of that. And so I feel like there's whatever energy was there is still happening. You know what I mean? I feel like Mike McFarland had a series at his house that was similar to the 10x3.
Yeah.
Different, you know, like it should be different. It shouldn't be the same. Right. There's so many different ways to do things. Like, come up with your own thing, but promote music, you know, like promote original music, create a community. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that are still out there doing that in the absence of the 10x3.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to bring them in. So
right, you are. You're absolutely doing it.
So are there people that we don't know about possibly that are doing this that we should, you'd like to give a mention to?
Well, I mean, Megan Stepka is doing the Winchester. She's doing a thing called Cleveland Spark at the Beachland. And these are all songwriter-focused events. And she has a ton of other things she's doing, too, that are very community-based. And so she would be a good person to put attention to, supporting whatever in any way. People I think that are really awesome right now. Mikey Salas, you've had Mikey, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Mikey's
we just went and
great.
saw him Saturday.
Yeah, Mikey's really like he played the 10x3 years ago, man, and just to see what he has done is just it's been an awesome thing to watch. You know, Ray Flanagan putting out his 2 songs every month is just an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like there's a lot of great things that are happening. People are doing it. Like, who gives a fuck if people like it or not, or you know, buy it or whatever? You know, like, we're gonna do it anyway. It might as well be what we want to do. It might as well be something true and authentic.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of people out here in Cleveland, northeastern Ohio area, that are really doing that in earnest. It's exciting to watch for me.
Absolutely.
And you guys are proof of that, because otherwise, who would you interview, right?
Yeah, we just
like,
sitting across from each other.
There's so many great people out there, great musicians, great songwriters, and we're all kind of feeding off each other. I feel like we all know that we have each other's back, and you know, my wife and I do booking. We have a booking agency, so we do bookings for Downtown Cleveland Alliance, so all the Walnut Wednesdays and Spark City Hop and you know, any kind of Winterfest, any type of those music events that Downtown Cleveland Alliance has, I do the booking for that. And Great Lakes Burning River Fest I did a couple years, and they just haven't had it back yet. Do some bookings for the Rock Hall. We have booking contracts with restaurants and bars where we lead with original music, you know. Like, hey, you want music in your bar? Well, this person's going to be great. You're going to love them. But they're going to play original stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you put a few covers or whatever. You know, like, I don't mind playing covers as long as it's covers I want to play. Most people probably never heard them, but whatever, you know. But there's people out there that can totally pull that thing off, and so all we're trying to do is connect restaurant and bar owners with those people, so that people can get work, you know.
Which restaurants and bars can we expect to see a performance like that?
Well, Hofbrau House, Pinstripes, Old Wine Cellar, and then there's some on-off series that we do. Yeah, I mean, we had a banner year all prepared for 2020.
Yeah.
And, man, we lost it all, and it was like we've still been fighting to get a lot of that back, you know. And that's okay, you know, like balance is key, and it's my wife and I, so imagine going to business with your wife. Like, I love her to death, but at the same time, there's still going to be some of the, you know, and it's hard to separate that sometimes. So it's okay where it is, too. Like, whatever it is, we're always trying to balance that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to go on to the movie question?
Well, what I really want to know
right.
is if the worst happens and Brothers Lounge may have to stay closed, is there any plans to resurrect the 10x3?
Good question, and I get asked that quite a bit. So I don't know about the 10x3 week-to-week thing. That was a lot of work for the least amount of money, and not that it's not about money at all, but at the same time, I was having to start to turn down or find subs for me because I was getting gigs on Wednesdays that were paying pretty well, and I had to balance those things. I think it could come back in an abbreviated way or in a different way. I'm not quite sure how, but I still don't know yet. There was a certain part, right? I thought to myself once, I was like, I'm never going to be able to stop doing this. I'm going to have to do this till the day I die, like it has to continue. Right. But I feel that there's other ways to continue it. So one thing I did was I applied for a grant for the Ohio Arts Council where I would take the 10x3 on the road as a showcase. Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley's Sun records back in the day, where you have like 7, 8 acts, except this would be 10, be 10 writers, and we'd all go to Cincinnati, or we'd all go to Columbus, or we'd all go to Toledo, or we'd go to Youngstown, or wherever, and I would find non-traditional locations like museums or something like that, or a cave or something, and have a 10x3 there where the person who was there wouldn't have to put any money out to pay for it because it would be paid for through the grant, and then there were hotels and the musicians would be paid, and that would be an outreach of Cleveland artists to the state.
Yeah.
Getting musicians' feet in other markets, having them meet people and create fans in different markets. I just felt like that was something that would grow. I didn't get the grant filled this time, but it was good for me to go through that process because it's something I've been thinking about for years. And I did take it down to Akron, and that was a little bit hard. Like Akron on a Wednesday night, it wasn't digging the 10x3 necessarily. Like it kind of had stops and starts, and then I was like, I'm just not gonna focus on that right now. There were other things that were happening that I wanted to put my energy towards, and again, a balance, But I do feel like the on the road 10x3 or 10x3 one-off shows could be pretty great. Where maybe we just grab a theater one night and we have a 10x3, or there's it'd be great to do a 10x3 down at Edgewater, and have set up a backline and have all those bands come up. I mean, that would be great. If we can convince the powers that be who have those type of places to showcase Cleveland music in that kind of way, I feel it's a good format for that,
Yeah.
So I feel like there's things like that I've just started to kind of dip my toe in thinking about the continuation of that. I definitely have not abandoned it at all, but I just think I think it needs to do something different.
Well, whatever does happen, whenever we look back in the future about the state of Cleveland music and how we all treat each other and how we're all close, and we can attribute a lot to the 10x3.
Well, man, that's a fine thing to say. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
thank you.
like bringing that idea to life and keeping it going for so long. Really important place for a lot of musicians, including myself.
Me too.
Young me.
I'm right in there with everybody. Like I said, I learned so much.
All right. Thanks, Brent Kirby, for coming and being on our podcast.
Wait, there's a movie question.
Well, we've asked a movie recommendation has been our closer here.
Oh,
so.
well, come on. It's Get Back right now. Like, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Like that. Have you seen that?
I watched the first hour and a half, and then I was like out of town for a while. So
God.
I'm waiting for a gap in my schedule to be able to
It really
just
is. Like I've been planning
binge it.
for it. It's taken me a while to get to it, and I just started to watch it, and I'm on episode 2 right now, so it's taken me a while. But man, just amazing. Talk about songwriting. Like,
Yeah, it's
watching those songs being born, and just I see how they interacted, and I mean, it really is such an amazing thing, amazing document of them writing together. So great
to
like,
be the fly on the wall.
I mean, we
is
literally
amazing.
are.
Yeah.
Like that's the great part about it. They recorded all that stuff and
Yeah.
filmed all that stuff, and it's just really, man. Like as a musician, as a songwriter, as a music fan, like it's such a great document.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm really all about that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to stop watching Arrested Development for the 6th time and start watching that. That's what I'm
What
on
made
right
you
now.
think after the 5th time you should go do it again? Just because you...
Oh, it makes me laugh so much. And
Yeah.
like it made me laugh so much when I was like 16, 17. So
love that.
yeah, I love
America's
Jason.
Funny Some Videos does that to me. That's my
Yeah.
favorite TV show. My son and I watch that all the time, and we just
Do they still put
laugh
on new
and laugh.
episodes of that?
They do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great. Like I love that show. It's just if I want to laugh, it's guaranteed every time. America's Funny Some Videos, man.
It's right in
the
title.
greatest format ever made. Honestly, really, so good.
All right.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us all the acts you're associated with? So we
Sure.
can check it out?
So there's the Sunday Classic, which is Ray Flanagan, Russ Flanagan, and Ed Sotelo and myself. Fourth Sunday of the month at Forest City, and we play other gigs too. And then the Jack Fords, which has been around for 12 years. That's 4-piece rock and roll band, original stuff. And then the New South Shoe, which is the Graham Parsons Band, once a month, second Thursday of the month at Forest City Brewery. And then I have the Ohio City Singers, which is the all-original Cleveland Christmas band with Walkin' Kane and Chris Allen, Don Dixon, Boys from the County Hell, Doug McKean, and
Wow, all
so
stars.
It really is, yeah. So we've had our first Christmas season in 2 years, and we're doing the Rock Hall. We're playing the Rock Hall on Thursday, tomorrow night.
Oh.
Tomorrow night?
No,
Tuesday.
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm so off in my schedule.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday. So
yeah.
on Thursday night, we're playing the Rock Hall, and we've had sold-out shows all season, so that's been really fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks
Cool.
again so much for
You're welcome.
coming on.
Thank you.
We're happy to.
We did it. Woohoo!
All right.
Brent Kirby.
Peace.
Peace.